The ancient Greeks had a rule. Never say her name. They called her Kore, the Maiden. A soft word, a safe word, because her real name carried the weight of death itself. For centuries, scholars assumed this was superstition. But then they found a clay tablet on the coast of Greece, 3,400 years old, and scratched into its surface was a name, a queen, ruling the dead, centuries before Zeus, before Hades, before the kidnapping story ever existed. Here is the story you think you know. A girl is picking flowers in a meadow. She is young. She is happy. She has no idea what is about to happen. Because beneath Olympus, a deal has already been made. Zeus, her own father, has promised her to Hades, god of the dead. Not through courtship, not through consent, through conspiracy. He told Hades to take her, not to ask, to take. And to make sure it worked, Zeus asked the earth itself, Gaia, to grow a single flower in that meadow. A narcissus, impossibly beautiful, irresistible. Persephone reached for it. The ground split open beneath her feet. A chariot of black horses erupted from the earth, and Hades dragged her into the darkness below. Her screams echoed across the meadow. No one came. Zeus was conveniently away, receiving sacrifices at a distant shrine. For 9 days, her mother Demeter searched. She did not eat. She did not sleep. She wandered the earth calling her daughter's name. On the 10th day, Helios, the sun, who sees everything, finally told her the truth. Zeus gave her daughter away. Hades has her, and Demeter did not weep. She raged. She was the goddess of the harvest, so she shut it down. Every field went barren. Every crop withered. Famine spread across the world. Humans began to die. Think about that for a moment. This was not grief. This was a strike. Because without humans, there are no sacrifices. And without sacrifices, the gods starve. Zeus had no choice. He sent Hermes to the underworld to bring Persephone back. But before she left, Hades offered her something. Pomegranate seeds. The oldest source says he gave them to her stealthily, but also calls them honey sweet. She ate them, and that changed everything. Because there was a rule in the underworld. Anyone who eats the food of the dead can never fully leave. The deal was struck. 1/3 of the year, she would remain below with Hades. 2/3 above, with her mother. When she rises, the world blooms. When she descends, the world dies. That is how the Greeks explain the seasons. That is the story. Beautiful, tragic, and repeated for 27 centuries. But here's the problem. When you go back and actually read what Homer wrote about Persephone, it does not sound like a victim at all. Homer never calls her a captive. He calls her Dread Persephone, Epaine Persephonia, a title reserved for beings that make gods nervous. In the Odyssey, he goes further. He calls her the Iron Queen. Think about that for a moment. Not the weeping bride, not the stolen daughter, the Iron Queen. And then you start noticing what she does. When Orpheus descended into the underworld to beg for his wife back, it was not Hades who answered. It was Persephone. She set the condition. Do not look back. She decided whether a soul could leave her kingdom. Not him. When Heracles needed to borrow Cerberus, the three-headed guardian of the dead, he did not ask Hades for permission. He asked her, and she authorized it. When the prophet Tiresias died, someone granted him a gift no other soul received. The ability to keep his mind, his voice, his prophecy, even in death. That someone was Persephone. And when Sisyphus tried to cheat death, she was the one who let him walk back into the sunlight. But here is where the story takes its cruelest turn. Two heroes once tried to kidnap Persephone from the underworld. Theseus and Pirithous. They came to take her by force. She did not scream. She did not call for help. She trapped them on the chair of forgetfulness. Forever, a nymph named Minna boasted she was more beautiful than the queen. Persephone turned her into a mint plant. Adonis refused to return to her. She sent a wild boar to kill him. And when Circe tells Odysseus where he must travel, she does not say the house of Hades. She says the house of dread Persephone and of Hades. The queen is named first. The king comes second. She was mistress of the Erinyes. The Furies themselves answer to her. These are not the actions of a prisoner. These are the actions of a ruler. Homer called her the Iron Queen. Heroes trembled at her name. But there is something even Homer did not know. Because Persephone was not just a queen. She was ancient, far more ancient than any Olympian. Here is something strange about the name Persephone. It doesn't sound Greek. Linguists have spent over a century trying to trace it to Indo-European roots, the language family that connects English to Sanskrit. They can't. The name is older than the Greek language itself. Its meaning, bringer of death, or she who destroys the light. Think about that for a moment. The Greeks knew what it meant, and they were afraid to say it. So they invented safe words. They called her Kore, the maiden, soft, harmless. They called her Despoina, the mistress, because her real name could only be spoken by those who had been initiated into her secrets. Everyone else used the euphemism, the way you might avoid saying a curse or the name of a disease. Now here is where it gets extraordinary. In southern Greece, archaeologists found clay tablets scratched with the earliest Greek writing ever discovered, Linear B, dating to around 1400 BCE, that is centuries before Homer, centuries before the kidnapping story was ever written down. And on those tablets, references to two queens and the king, a goddess of the underworld, already being worshipped, already ruling, at a time when the Olympian gods, as we know them, did not yet exist. But it goes even further back. In the oldest fragments of her story, older than the tablets, older than writing itself, surviving only as oral tradition, Persephone descends into the underworld willingly. No Hades, no chariot, no screaming in a meadow. She goes because she hears the cries of the dead, and someone must comfort them. That is the version the Greeks buried. For 700 years, from the 5th century BCE into the Roman era, Greeks placed thin gold leaves in the graves of their dead. Afterlife instructions, prayers for safe passage. And here is the crucial detail. They were addressed not to Hades. They were addressed to her. Persephone decided what happened to you after death. Not the king, the queen. One of these gold leaves reads like a final plea. A soul arriving in the underworld, seeking shelter beneath the queen's garment, like a child hiding under its mother's cloak. And then there were the Eleusinian mysteries, the most sacred secret ceremony in the ancient world. It lasted for nearly 2,000 years, from roughly 1500 BCE until the Roman emperor shut it down in 392 CE. Every year, thousands of initiates walked into the sanctuary at Eleusis. They walked in fearing death. They walked out free of it. Whatever they experienced was so profound that in 2,000 years, not a single initiate revealed the secret. The punishment for speaking was death, and no one spoke. At the center of those mysteries, Persephone, not the stolen girl, not the weeping bride, a force of transformation, the one who descended into darkness and returned, the one who proved that death was not the end. This is the story they never told you. Return to that moment in the dark. A young woman in the underworld, a pomegranate in her hand, 6 seeds on her tongue. Every version calls it a trick, a trap. What if it wasn't? What if it was the moment Kore chose to become Persephone, the moment the maiden became the queen? The kidnapping narrative says more about the society that wrote it than the goddess at its center. A patriarchal world needed to explain away a terrifyingly powerful figure. So they made her a victim, turned sovereignty into captivity. The oldest evidence tells a different story. Where Kore suggested innocence, Persephone signaled sovereignty. She was never the victim. She was always the queen. They just couldn't say her name. The next time someone tells you the story of Persephone, ask them, which Persephone? The maiden they invented, or the queen they tried to erase?